Hello everyone, this is Ender Chiron, and I'm here with something I don't normally do. I'm going to be talking about news, gaming news. Namely, about what's happening with Eugen Systems. So, on March 1st, 2017, Eugen Systems and Paradox Interactive announced a new project, Steel Division Normandy 44. So far, what we know is that it is using the Iris Zoom engine that Eugen originally developed for Ruse, which was published by Ubisoft back in 2010, and has subsequently been used for all the entries in the War Game franchise, published by Focus, and apparently was also used in Active Aggression, though this rumor is largely unsubstantiated as nobody has actually played that game in order to confirm it. This indicates to me that the game will probably play in a similar manner to War Game Red Dragon, and indeed seems as if it's going to be an evolution of it. In some ways, and other ways not so much just because of the setting. Of course, as the name implies, the game is ostensibly set during Operation Overlord and other operations that took place in Normandy. Now I know that a fair few people are quite tired of World War II as a setting for games, though I am personally not. Indeed, I feel that as of late there are not very many modern World War II RTSs out there. At least right now, anyway. The big ones being Men of War Assault Squad 2, Company of Heroes 2, and Hearts of Iron 4. Though I'm sure many people will point out that Men of War is more of a tactics than a strategy game, but just for the purpose of this video, I'm going to lump them together, just because they're related, if not identical. Now, the big reason why I'm excited for Steel Division is its scale. Men of War and Company of Heroes are what I refer to as company scale games. Pretty obvious for Company of Heroes, it's in the name. This means that the number and types of units that you have are restricted to what a company-sized force could realistically have, with obvious concessions made to gameplay, of course. Hearts of Iron is on a far grander scale, being more of a national level game, where you, as the name implies, command an entire nation. Sitting between these two scales, you have the War Game franchise, which has a more battalion-ish level scale. I'm sure some would argue that is more regimental in scale, but I digress. Anyway, this scale gives you far wider access to greater numbers and varieties of units than, say, Company of Heroes, and I find it makes the battles have far greater weight to them without being massively overwhelming. Now, from what I have read on PC Gamer, links to articles in the description, it seems as if Steel Division is going to be an evolution of the deck system we have from Wargame. From my understanding, it looks like players will choose a specific historical division, such as the 101st Airborne or the 3rd Canadian Infantry Division, and will have to build their decks from whatever units would be historically available to them. Therefore, right off the bat, it looks as if Eugen is trying to eliminate the use of unspec decks or general decks or whatever you want to call them, seemingly to get rid of a certain degree of the min-maxing that you currently see in Wargame Red Dragon. Apparently, Eugen is also thinking about giving the various divisions limited access to units from other divisions in order to give the players some flexibility in their choices. Though this could just be Mad Matt's usual trolling. It's pretty hard to tell with that man sometimes. Now, Wargame veterans may be concerned with these restrictions from a competitive standpoint. What is going to stop a German panzer battalion from simply steamrolling over a bunch of paratroopers? Well, it seems Eugen has also considered this, and they have come up with, looks like an interesting solution. They're introducing a phase system, where the battle is split up into 3 different phases, creatively named A, B, and C. How this phase system seems to work is that the players will be restricted to certain kinds of units depending on the current phase. For example, at the beginning of a battle during Phase A, the player will only be able to call out their lighter, faster units, and as the battle progresses, different units will become available. What this means is that, sure, that Panzer Battalion has all those shiny Tigers and Panthers, but they won't be able to deploy them until fairly late in the battle. Meanwhile, the airborne player will be able to rapidly gain an early advantage, giving him advantage once the heavies start bringing down his neck. This also leads on to one of the other big changes between Steel Division and Wargame, outside of, the setting. control zones appear to have been done away with. Now, instead of having to fight over a bunch of arbitrarily selected forests and cities, players will have to actually spread out and maintain a solid front line, leading to other interesting developments such as the potential to encircle enemy units, which will have consequences. It seems as if victory will rely on a greater degree to actually having proper map control and not just plonking your CV in an arbitrary rectangle called Echo. However, command units have not been completely done away with. Instead, what they will do is provide a buff to units in a small radius around them. The exact nature and extent of these buffs is not known and probably not even decided yet, but it looks as if they will provide experience bonuses, turning your trained riflemen into hardened riflemen or something. Now, going back to the idea of encircling your opponent, the morale system seems to have been reworked between Steel Division and Wargame, and it's now possible for units to retreat or even surrender, though of course some Wargame units could rout, but in Red Dragon that's pretty rare. Anyway, so units can retreat or they can even surrender, and units that find themselves cut off and surrounded are more likely to be captured. Unless you have a command unit with them, however, which will keep their spirits up and inspire them to break out, or simply delay the inevitable. What this means is that command units will still be important, but the game will no longer basically devolve into you sniping your opponent's CVs as both sides get progressively more and more stressed and, desperate to win the battle in a conquest game. Other things of interest so far are what appear to be off-map support elements. At this point, I'm not sure if planes will operate in the same manner as Wargame Red Dragon, or if there will be more along the lines of what you see in Company Heroes. Personally, I hope they keep with the Wargame style of planes, because that could lead to actually, having actual dogfights. But we'll have to wait and see. It also appears that artillery, or heavy artillery at least, will be limited to off-map support and not actual units that you call in. As well, there's also naval artillery support on coastal maps. One of the more interesting things I think that they're doing is how they're going to be going about with map design. Now, what Alex Adresse stated was that they're going to be doing basically 1-to-1 scale maps in Steel Division, unlike Wargame Red Dragon, which, has kind of an odd scaling and abstraction for its map sizes. It's hard to explain. Anyway, what they're doing is they're going to be recreating actual battlefields from Normandy using aerial photography and trying to recreate them in a 1-to-1 scale, obviously with some modifications simply for game balance. And yeah, it seems like it's going to be pretty interesting. The only other thing I can really talk about is more speculative on my part is going to be DLC. Not too sure what they're going to be doing for DLC, namely, because it's going to be pretty focused on, Normandy, Western Front, 1944, so I don't know if they're going to be doing anything else with, doing different parts of World War II, like going further for more 1945 and silly Nazi Wunderwaffen, or going, early war, 1939, 1940, you never know. Could be interesting to see what they do with that, or if they're going to add other fronts, add the Pacific Front with, U.S. Marine Corps units, Imperial Japanese Army and Navy, or add, the Eastern Front. I hear that was a thing during the Second World War, the Great Patriotic War, as the Soviets and Russians know it. Because I think that was probably a fairly major part of the conflict. And maybe they'll add the Soviet Union. Who knows? It could be that they're saving that for another game, same how with, the Wargame franchise. The various sequels, expanded the theaters that they're operating in. So European escalation was, West Germany. Airland battle ended, Northern Europe, Scandinavia. And Red Dragon is, Southeast Asia. So yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see where they go with the game. All in all, I am quite excited and will be looking forward to any future information. Release date is set for sometime later this year. I don't know when exactly. So yeah, Let me know what you think of this upcoming game. Do you think it'll be an original take on World War II strategy games, or is it simply another entry in a dud genre in an overdone setting? Maybe you're somewhere in between. I'm Xander Turon. Let me know what you think in the comments, and have a lovely day.